Okay. So, I could I couldn't wait to share this. This is so exciting. Something amazing just happened to me. Something that's never ever happened to me before in this way. I was just pulled over by the police. And in Monona, no less. All right. Okay, so I'm out here doing my usual my Uber thing. I'm out Ubering, and I just picked up a lovely young couple over in Monona, and almost no sooner than me driving onto Monona Drive, I pass a Monona police officer, and he gets behind me. I saw that he was behind me. I actually saw him before he left the parking lot that he was parked in, and didn't really think anything of it. But he gets behind me, and then he puts on his lights, and I pull over in front of the Michael's Frozen Custard over there by Monona Drive and Cottage Grove Road. So he comes up to the window and he says, "Hi there." I'm like, "Hello. Is there? What's the problem?" And because honestly, I wasn't clear. I didn't think that I was going that fast. I don't think I have any tail lights out or anything. So, but I stopped obviously because that's a good idea, given my history. So, so he says, "Do you know what the speed limit here, or what the speed limit is here on Monona Drive?" And I said, I'm 35, I think. He says, "No, actually it's 30. I'm like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Do you know how fast you were going?" I said, "I don't know. I guess about 35 then." He's like, "No, you were going 46. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize, honestly. I guess I must not have been paying enough attention. And he's like, "Is there any reason why you'd be going that fast?" I'm like, no, really. There's not, other than just, I guess I was just maybe a little absent-minded about it. And he says, "Okay, do you have your license?" I'm like, "Yep." I give it to him. And he says, "Okay, I'll be right back." He walks away. And I sit and I converse with the people in my car. And I was explaining how it would be ironic, that he, or no, I'm sorry. The fella in the car says, like, as a joke, he said jokingly, like, "Okay, so nobody's holding, right?" And I'm like, that would be funny. That would be ironic, considering that my license plate says recover. And I quickly explained to them kind of my station in life now. And anyway, so after a little while, the police officer, he comes back, and he says, "Well, you have a pretty clean driving record, and so I'm just going to let you off with a warning this time, but just make sure that you know that the speed limit here is 30 miles per hour." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. No, in fact, I'm glad that you pulled me over, because now I won't forget that. I will definitely not forget that. So thank you very much. Have a good night." And he says, "Yep, you too." And so I can't help but be reminded of the last time that a police officer tried to pull me over for speeding when I wasn't paying attention to how fast I was going, and how that situation turned out. So I guess just in brief, I will explain. Back in 2005, when I was living under the bridge over by Highway 30 there, the Dirty 30 bridge, I was coming back from Cub Foods with a half-gallon of whiskey in the back seat, Buddy in the front seat, along with a mixed 7-Up and whiskey 20-ounce right here next to me. I was trying to use the cigarette lighter that was in the car that I was borrowing. It was a friend's. I didn't have a license or insurance or anything. And I was trying to use a cigarette lighter to light a cigarette that I had rolled. And it was part of the ashtray, and it kept sliding in and crushing my hand every time I pressed on it. And I was getting frustrated. That's why I was speeding. And then I saw the cop, and I'm like, "Please don't pull me over." And of course, he turned around and tried to pull me over. And in my genius brain at the time, my intoxicated, tired brain, Keep in mind, too, this is after coming off of a year of being out west where I was doing speedballs every single day. And now I'm just drinking every day, like here in Madison, living under a bridge, right? So in my infinite wisdom, I thought I could get away. Well, that was obviously stupid. And he's right on my ass the whole time, tearing through this East Side neighborhood on a Saturday afternoon in the summertime, where there are no sidewalks. I'm so thankful and grateful that I didn't harm anyone in this event. Eventually, I stopped behind the Brothers 3 restaurant, which is a fine place if you're an old man and like euchre. And I thought that I had gotten away. I thought that I had successfully escaped. Turned off the car, let out a sigh of relief. And then he was right behind me. He was right there. And he had his gun out. And he's like, "Driver, put your hands out the window." And I couldn't because the electric window didn't work. And I opened the door, and because I was a little intoxicated, like I said, I had to put my foot down when I put my arms out just to keep my balance. And he's like, "Driver, step back into the vehicle, step back into the vehicle." And I was like, I'm sorry, the window's broken, So he comes up and grabs me and throws me in the car and guns in my face, handcuffs me and arrests me. 2 other police officers show up, a young woman and then an older man with a copper badge, signifying his sergeant status, I guess. Anyway, then eventually they leave. He gets back into his squad car, the arresting officer. And at this point, I'm sobering up, and I tell him that for what it's worth, I'm so very sorry for taking him on that crazy ride that was ridiculous and insane, and I felt like such a jackass. And he says to me, happens all the time. I'm like, what? 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 Huh? He's like, yeah, a lot of people just panic and think they can get away. And, it's a pretty natural reaction, actually. And I was like, oh, all right, fair enough. And then, after explaining to him that, that I was only going just right up the street to my destination, where my friend who's was waiting for and all that, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah. So then I asked him, so what's gonna happen now, and the owner of the car would be there, and he says, well, this here, what I'm writing, is a ticket for driving with a suspended license. Now, you don't have to go to court for this, but if you don't show up, then a judgment will be made against you, and you'll be ordered to pay this amount. And if you don't pay it, then a warrant for your arrest could be issued by the judge. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I should go, yeah. Okay. And then he says, this other one here, this is a citation for evading an officer. Now, you have to go to court for this. This is mandatory. If you don't show up for court, then a bench warrant will be issued for your arrest by the judge, and you'll be liable. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm thinking, like, how am I going to miss court? Because I'm definitely going to jail, right? And, like, they're probably not going to give me a bail because, I have so many bail jumpings on my record, So it was just, like, ridiculous that he would even be explaining it to me in this way. So I'm like, all right. So what's going to happen now with the car? Is the car going to be impounded? Because, my friend, and I was feeling bad. And he says, well, if you had stopped on city property, then we would either have to have the owner of the car come, or we would have to have it towed. But because you stopped on private property, when I leave, it's really out of my hands. I'm thinking, when you leave, what the hell is going on? So I said, okay, so what's going to happen right now? He says, well, it's about 2 p.m. I'm probably going to go get a sandwich. I've been out here all day and I'm hungry. And then he got out of the car, and then he opened up the back door and he let me out. and gave me 2 pieces of paper and said, "Have a nice day." And that is white privilege. I, of course, did report to court and then reported to jail. I was sentenced to 10 days in the Dane County Jail with all of my my cases running concurrent. And what that means when you get sentenced to 10 days in jail, that breaks down to 7 days with good time. So I went to the Dane County Jail downtown. After a couple of days, was transported to the Ferris Center out by the Coliseum. After a couple of days of being there, a couple of guys who were playing cards opened up to me a little bit and asked me to share with them why I was there. And it was 4 black guys playing spades, and they said to me, like, "Hey, white boy," because that's how people would generally refer to me in that environment, and it's not derogatory. That's just how people talk there. They're like, "Hey, white boy, what you in for?" And I was like, "Oh, I got into this high-speed chase, evading an officer, suspended license, yada yada yada." And they're like, "Oh yeah." I think one of them said something along the lines of like, "Oh yeah, my cousin Joey is up in KM, Kettle Moraine, for running from a cop." And I was like, "Oh, was there anything else, involved in that situation? Did he have drugs on him?" She's like, "No, man, just running. He just got scared and ran." And I was like, "Oh wow, that's crazy." He's like, "Yeah, man, he got like 2 years for that." And I was like, "Geez, that's wow." And he's like, "How much time you got, man? How long you got?" And I was like, "Well, let me see. I got here Friday. If I consider all the good time, I think I get out Friday." And they all literally dropped their cards face up, ruining the game, and looked at me and did that thing that a lot of black men do when they get very excited. The pitch in their voice went up, and they're like, "What? Man, this is bullshit, man. Man, fuck Wisconsin, man. Fuck Wisconsin. This is bullshit." And I was just like, "I know, man. I hear you. That is bullshit." What's really ironic, though, is that when I was 19 years old, I was arrested for trying to steal a case of beer from Amy's Cafe downtown in Madison. So what this tells me, that if you're a white person, it's okay to be reckless on the road and even be intoxicated and drunk with a half gallon of alcohol in the backseat that you just bought. But if you try to skate around paying that alcohol tax that this state relies on so much, well, they'll fuck you over and certainly rob you of any rights that you might have to ever own a gun. So I'm really glad that I can vote. That's cool that that's a thing, and I plan on voting this April 5th in the primaries. And I don't think I have to tell you all who I'm voting for, because I think you all know that I'm a sane and rational human being who wants good things for this country. So, there you have it. That's my story. That's my 2 cents. And thanks for listening. Have a good night.